Well, the Braves pull off a big surprise at Wrigley Field.
That's right. Braves haven't done a lot to add excitement to the game of baseball this year, but this afternoon at Wrigley, they managed to keep the fans hanging on by giving up another lead and then taking the game into extra innings. The score tied at 2 in the 10th. It was RAFAEL RAMIREZ against Lee Smith, and Rafi parks a 2-run homer in left field, his second homer of the year, and it was only the second homer Smith has given up this season. Braves won at 4-2. Ramirez responsible for all 4 Braves runs. Now, the Giants are losing 6-0 at the bottom of the 9th. If they lose, the Braves' trip to the cellar will have been a brief one. Thanks to the success of the U.S. cycling team in the 1984 Summer Olympics, the popularity of the sport has skyrocketed in this country. While many of us use our bikes for casual exercise, there are plenty of riders who take cycling seriously. Dick Crippen reports.
You really got to enjoy it to make it worthwhile. You've got to have time off your job. You've got to have financial support. There's a lot of aspects that go into it.
It's a sport with a sort of strange beauty and appeal.
You have to coordinate together, and you're working together even though you're on opposing teams, and there's an understanding within that.
Strange beauty. In stock car racing, the driver's draft. That's where the front car is used to break the airflow, and the second car rides tight in behind to take advantage of the lessened air resistance, a technique that can be employed by bikers.
The person in the front is pushing out most of the wind, and the people behind him the wind is going along with the first person, so they kind of get in behind him. There's about a 30% reduction in effort because of the drafting effect.
Bike races are long distances. You have to be aware of your abilities, your pacing.
The races are real long. They're very strenuous. Beginning of the race, you can usually sit in and try not.
Dick Crippen for NBC News.
Now, while cycling is a great test of strength and endurance, golfing can measure your patience, especially if you're a worse-than-average golfer. We're looking for the worst avid golfer in Atlanta. You may be aware of the worst avid golfer competition underway by Golf Digest magazine. Well, our contest is similar, but on a smaller scale. Now, to qualify for our contest, you must play 21 rounds a year minimum, but have a handicap of 25 or over. Write us and tell us why you're bad, but it must be postmarked by this Friday, June 7th. Send your letter to Worst Golfer, WXIA-TV, 1611 West Peachtree Street, Atlanta, 30309. We'll have a bad golf-off between the 4 worst, and the winner of that round gets 2 passes to the final round of the Atlanta Classic. Later this summer, steps will be taken at Atlanta International Raceway to avoid the kind of tragedy that claimed the life of driver Stuart Linden in Sunday's ARCA 500. Even after last November's accident that killed driver Terry Schoonover, track officials began considering what to do about the dirt banks on the track's infield. The banks are designed to protect fans, but in the case of both driver fatalities, the cars went out of control and plowed into the dirt, coming to a sudden stop and fatally injuring the driver. Now, track officials plan an extensive remodeling of the infield at AIR, including moving the dirt banks far enough into the infield so the cars can't hit them. And coming up at 6:20, we'll take a look at a new kind of therapy for the mentally and physically disabled. And I just want to say, Dave, for 10 years, it's been a lot of fun.
It has been, Joe. I've enjoyed knowing you.
Has it been that long?
It's been that long.
Amazing.
Thank you, Joe.
Sure.
Still to come in First News, where to find the bargains overseas. We'll have that story next.
99 cents at Burger King.
Thanks, Atlanta, for making the Children's Miracle Network Telethon a wonderful success.
Remember, send in your pledge.
And finally tonight, something I have not looked forward to. This is the day we say goodbye to our friend and colleague, my friend and colleague, Dave Michaels. He is leaving 11 Alive. Atlanta didn't know Dave Michaels in the early days of his career here in radio in Endicott, New York. He got bit early by the news bug as a page at NBC television in New York. Soon Dave moved south, and in the late 60s and early 70s became a familiar face and voice to Atlantans. It wasn't long before the #1 market in the country, New York City, got wind of Mr. Michaels, and it was on to the Big Apple as host of AM New York on WABC-TV. Then to Los Angeles, anchoring the 5 o'clock news.
The future appears a lot brighter tonight for 2 more kidnapped victims.
He hosted AM Los Angeles.
On this 4th of July, 1975, AM goes right to the top for music and entertainment news.
He emceed specials for ABC. Do you recognize Charo? About 9 years ago, WXIA-TV offered an anchoring job, and Dave and his family came back to Atlanta. Soon after, Dave pulled off one of the longest live anchoring stints in Atlanta history, 12 hours on the air, when a Frontier airliner was hijacked at Hartsfield.
Jail. This is evidently the plane right here. And
Dave's got what a lot of us in this business call grace under pressure. The guy is virtually unflappable.
Wouldn't you know that we find a wet tree, we're trying to demonstrate safety about a Christmas tree, and the tree won't light?
Unflappable even when something comes up that shouldn't, or when something doesn't come up that should.
Mary Rose is in the newsroom with a look ahead to that news. Mary. Well, we don't have Mary there, obviously, so we will just move on.
He's anchored virtually every news program we've ever had, most recently Noonday and First News.
The winner is Dave Michaels, 11 Arrived Newsroom, WXIA-TV.
Nobody was surprised when Dave Michaels won an Emmy in 1981 as Best Performer in Atlanta. He was nominated for an Emmy a record 4 times in a row. We'll miss you, Dave.
I have no speech.
Thank you, Andre. I appreciate you putting that tape together.
I'll miss you.
I've really enjoyed your company. You know, the best part of working in television is really the audience, you, the viewers. Over the last couple of weeks and today, I have received the nicest, most sincere phone calls and letters from many of you out there, and I can't tell you how much they have meant to me and my family. Now, I chose to live in Atlanta over 25 years ago, and this is my adopted city. It is home. I love it. But most importantly, it is the people who make the difference. I don't want to leave this town, and will do everything I can to stay. I thank you for the last 9 years. I've had some great memories here at 11 Alive, and I can prove it because I've got a lot of them on tape. So until the next time I see you on TV, let me paraphrase something that Frank Sinatra said in New Jersey last week. May you live to be 400, and may the last newscast you watch be mine. Peace be with you. Thank you. Thank you, Andrea.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Well, that is truly it from us. These stories are coming up.
I'm Maynard Eaton at Dobbins Air Force Base. President Reagan is in Atlanta to help raise funds for Senator Mac Mattingly's re-election bid and to